Okay, in this screencast, you're going to be experimenting with space and time. We will be going over exposure and just taking a look at what our timeline view is versus our exposure sheet and differences in between them and what you can and some of the things you can and can't do. And I apologize for the background noise. This was a last-minute screencast. And I also apologize for any bad drawings. I'm using the trackpad on my laptop right now. So let's get started. First, you're going to download the file from the website. It's going to be called Experiment Space and Time. We're just going to open that up in Toon Boom. So when you open up Toon Boom, you will have a screen that looks like this. It'll look something like this. You will have a drawing labeled ball. This ball, as you can see, when you go forward or backwards, is just moving across the screen. And right now, I am in my timeline view down here. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to come up here to these three little circles that say turn on onion skin. You're going to click on those. Then, if they're not already, you're going to come up here to the things next to them, and it says previous 3 drawings. You're going to click on that, and you want to make sure it's selected previous 3 drawings. Then on the one next to it, it says next drawing, and you want to click on next 3 drawings. Okay, so now what you are seeing, the red are your 3 previous drawings from behind it, and the green are your next 3 drawings in your timeline. So the ball is taking each of those. So once you have this open, you can look around and experiment with it. Okay, so now the difference between timeline and exposure sheet. Your timeline view, you're going to see your composition with your frames going from left to right, starting from left and going to right. And this will play your animation. Now, exposure sheet is where you're going to see your animation and the frames going from bottom down. And this is where you're going to be for the most part when you are drawing. So say I wanted to add a background to this. I would come up here to add a drawing. Just rename this background. You can double click on the top where the name is, delete that, and I'll put BG for background. And then what I'm going to do is right click on the top, arrange, send to back. So now it's going to be behind our ball. And now you can just draw whatever your background is going to be, which I am not going to try because I have trackpads. So I'm going to bring in a background. And I am just using the same thing I just showed, or I'm saying send to back. And then I'm actually going to delete this layer, which you guys aren't going to do because you guys are all going to draw your own drawing. Then you're going to right click, and because I have this set to 24 frames, we're going to right click on where it says you're drawing, extend exposure, and 24. So now your background will be with your animation the entire time. Okay, so next, what we want to do, if say you wanted to color your ball, you can come to your exposure sheet, not your timeline, click on the very first frame where it says ball 1, and come up here and make sure you are in drawing view, not camera view. Click on your paint bucket, and just make sure that you are in your color palette and select the color for your ball. So I'm just going to do red. And then come in here and just click in your ball. And now, if you go back to your camera view and you go to your timeline, you can play the animation and the ball is just going across your screen. And you now have a red ball. Okay, so next, if you are in your exposure sheet, and let's say you are on your drawing view. Now you have your red ball, but let's say you wanted to match this animation up with your background. Well, you can't see your background right now. So what you want to do is come up here to the little light bulb and click on that, and now you will see a faded version of your background when you are clicked on a different drawing. And this works for all backgrounds. So if I created another drawing, as you can see I just created one, and let's say I drew another really horrible ball, that ball is now faded and we are on this background. Okay, so that is it for the screencast. What you are going to do is just mess around with your exposure and your timeline view, and mess around with space and time. And it's really important with the way this one was animated that you are clicked on your camera view, not your drawing view, and in your timeline, not your exposure sheet, to view this animation. Okay, so I am now going to go through how I did this animation. This is not part of the lesson. This is just for those of you who already know the basics and want to do this. Okay, so first I'm going to just create a new project. I'm going to make it 24 frames long. I'll just name it Animate Ball. Okay, I'm going to go to my exposure sheet. I'm going to come up here to the brush, click on the arrow next to it, and select the ellipse tool. I'm then going to click in my drawing, drag and hold shift, and that will create a perfect ball. And then we can, I guess, color it with the paint bucket just by clicking inside. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to rename my drawing Ball. Next, I'm going to right click on ball 1, extend exposure. Ours is 24 frames a second, so we're going to make it 24, so this animation will last 1 second. And hit OK. Then I'm going to go to my timeline view, make sure I have selected camera and not drawing. And I'm going to hit I on the keyboard with this little red marker on the very first frame. I'm then going to come over here to where it says motion, and you want to make sure you're clicked on ball before you hit I, so you're creating a keyframe on your ball. I am then going to drag the red marker to the end of the animation and just drag the ball where I want it to be with the motion tool, which is over here, selected. And now if you view this, where your ball starts and where you moved it at the end of your animation, it's just going to animate and create a perfect number of keyframes. Now I'm actually going to go back to the first frame and move this ball over here. So now the ball is animating in and out of the camera. And just so you know, these black lines when you're in camera view, this little rectangle, this is your camera. This is what you will see in your animation when you render it out. Anything outside of that you will not see. Okay, so now we have our ball animated. And you can go through, and if on any random frame you can just click and move it and it'll animate like that. So now we have like a, I guess what you could call a really bad bounce. And that is it.